Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, M and J, and today we wanted to talk more about the tie-in comic for Masters of the Universe Revelation. We did a video on the first issue, and 3 more have come out since then. It serves as a prequel to Revelation, however it didn't finish until long after Revelation had premiered. You'd think they want to get it out of the way first, then again this comic has a habit of contradicting the show it's supposed to be the prequel of, which is weird considering the fact that it has the same team behind it. I think these comics would have been a good opportunity to give us more context and flesh things out for the story, but instead they ended up being confusing, and they don't even seem to be that connected with the show, at least not the first 5 episodes. Maybe that'll change with the next 5 episodes that are premiering in November, so we'll have to wait and see. But as it stands, if you don't read these, you're not really missing much. The last issue also portrays Teela as extremely bitter. In the show, it made it look like Teela was mad because she wasn't included in the secret of Adam's identity, and she was having trouble processing He-Man and Adam's death, but it turns out she was just always bitter, and apparently never had any respect for Castle Grayskull or the Sorceress or any of it, which also kind of proves that they never had the fans in mind when making this show. Teela is so out of character. It's to the point where I'm surprised she was even up for a promotion to begin with, and that's really disappointing to see. To recap the first issue, King Randor is attacked by a giant squid monster and falls into a coma. He-Man has to travel back in time to find out more about this creature, and discovers that it's actually not evil, but being controlled. We also get Revelation's take on King Grayskull. As well as Castle Grayskull, He-Man isn't able to find out how to cure his father, but he does have more understanding of what's happening. On top of those troubles, Skeletor is also using the creature to spy on them. The next 2 issues are backstory on Skeletor and Evil-Lyn. In this version, Skeletor came from a race of skull-headed people. Personally, I prefer when his face melts, but I guess this is closer to his original backstory, being a demon from another dimension. He and the rest of his people are slaves, but he leads an uprising, which ends in their liberation. He's hailed as a hero, and ends up settling down with a wife and they have a daughter, and everything is perfect. But since his identity wasn't kept secret, he's targeted by the original slavers. They kill his wife and daughter in front of him, and the skull-headed people are back to being slaves. But then Hordak and the evil Horde show up, and we get cameos of several major She-Ra villains. Hordak promises to help free Skeletor's people, and even bring his dead family back to life. He just has to give Hordak his life. But he has the power to free his people now, although a lot of them end up working for Hordak, and he uses the skull of the man who killed his family for the Havoc staff. But to the surprise of no one, Hordak isn't great at keeping his word. Skeletor keeps pestering Hordak, hoping he'll resurrect his family. Eventually he annoys him enough that he agrees to resurrect one of his loved ones. Skeletor chooses his daughter, but he still wants his wife back too. So Hordak tells him he can have his wife back when the campaign is over, which is leading them towards Eternia, but eventually he decides to ditch Hordak and just take the power for himself. Evil-Lyn doesn't believe this backstory, and personally I don't know what to think, because in the 5 episodes that we did get, Skeletor claims that he's evil because he's an incel, since his skull face means no one will have him as a man, and he's very lonely.
What's wrong with you?
Look at my face, child! It has furnished for me a lonely life in which none would have me as a man.
But that wouldn't be a problem if there's a whole race of skull-headed people. He sees Evil-Lyn as his dead wife in this comic, and he has a pendant that his wife was wearing in the flashbacks, which suggests that his story is true, and Evil-Lyn apparently has a crush on him. So either he's lying here, or in the show, or maybe they're different continuities, who really knows? This comic is marketed as a prequel to the show, so there really shouldn't be these inconsistencies. The 3rd issue is all about Evil-Lyn. It starts out by saying that no one is born evil, but is instilled in people due to hardships that they face. And for Evil-Lyn, she eventually chooses to change her name because her, guardians wanted to cut her up, apparently to eat her. Lyn manages to escape them by hiding in the sewers. While down there, she meets a woman who's made this place her home, and she takes her in. This is also where Lyn got the inspiration for her disguise in the show. Her name is Magistra, and she says that she was forced underground because she's a magic user, so she can relate to Lyn. Although it isn't specified that's that's why those people were trying to eat her. But Magistra takes her as an apprentice and teaches her magic, but makes her promise to only use it for good and righteous causes like survival, saying that if used for harm it can corrupt the wielder. However, after getting older and stronger, she tracks down the people from the beginning of the comic to get revenge on them. Despite promising that she wouldn't use magic in this way, Magistra stops her though, and is disappointed that she almost broke her promise, although technically Lyn could still kill them by like stabbing them or something that doesn't use magic, just saying. Instead she runs off, and Magistra promises to be waiting for her. However, she gets taken in by Skeletor. He tells her that Magistra was actually blocking her connection to magic, so she was unable to utilize her true potential. She confronts Magistra about this, and she says that Lyn can't use magic for evil, so Lyn kills her. After fully committing to the dark side, she ends up seeing a vision of Teela in Magistra's place. It turns out Evil-Lyn was thinking about all of this while they were looking through the eyes of the Orlax, so her memories end up getting interrupted by this vision of Teela. Not entirely sure what it's supposed to mean though. It ends up breaking Evil-Lyn's concentration, so Skeletor demands they reconnect with the Orlax, but then He-Man and Teela force their way into Snake Mountain. Turns out they got wise to their plan. Evil-Lyn and Skeletor try to play dumb and act like they have no idea why the two of them are there, but Teela and He-Man aren't letting them off the hook. But the two villains escape before He-Man and Teela can force them to save the king. As Evil-Lyn leaves, she taunts He-Man saying good luck with daddy. So the bad guys know his secret? They seemed surprised when they found out in the show. What's the point of keeping that secret to themselves? You'd think they would be using it to their advantage. Instead, Skeletor is just happy with the information he got from the creature. He's found out the true nature of Castle Grayskull, but all he actually needed was the Sword of Power. Honestly, smacking that orb just caused a bunch of problems for everybody, including him, since it just delayed his victory. So our heroes return to Castle Grayskull, but with no help for King Randor. He-Man's taking this really hard, something that Teela notes, and she says that he's taking it harder than Queen Marlena. But Duncan points out that people grieve in their own ways. She says that since the king is dying and Prince Adam is MIA, people might rally behind He-Man to be the next king, which could make sense. So she starts asking questions about He-Man, like where he came from, which I don't think is totally unreasonable, but he could probably use his original backstory as cover. Basically a wandering barbarian do-gooder. Good enough. But then I feel like Teela's true colors come out. She berates the sorceress, calling her weak for not being able to save one man's life. And she ends up going on this whole rant about how the whole kingdom is built on secrets and lies. And most of her rant makes no sense. She just can't fathom why Skeletor would want to get into Castle Grayskull when it's a stupid, rotting building. Is that what she thinks of Castle Grayskull? Sure, Teela, it makes absolutely no sense that a powerful sorcerer like Skeletor would want to control a powerful magical castle like Grayskull. It's a complete and total mystery. She asks why anyone would want to be master of the universe that would allow this to happen. Maybe instead of blaming everyone and pointing fingers, she could step up. She's about to get this big promotion, but she has no respect for the masters. She doesn't trust them, so why bother with all of this? While she's ranting, the king starts to respond, and then she glows the same way she did in the episode where the characters went to hell. This ends up reviving King Randor. It turns out Queen Marlena had begged the creature for her husband's life, but he couldn't understand her, so she ended up praying to the crystal orb, the ancient elders, and even the power itself, just begging for her husband's life. And it manifested through Teela. With the king saved, they're able to go back to other business, like making Teela the new man-at-arms, although she admits she doesn't feel like she deserves it. And I would say she's at least not ready. That outburst was a lot, and there's clearly unpacked baggage to deal with. Maybe she should consider if she even wants this. It's kind of weird to work for a kingdom and with people she doesn't trust, and fight to protect a castle she has no respect for, and views as an old crumbling building. I guess her hating magic wasn't a recent thing. The comic ends with them erasing her memory of the incident, which is something from the original that I've never really cared for. It's one of those has to be the right time, right place things. Personally, I never felt like it was necessary, and I wouldn't mind if the series would address those things, but I don't understand why it had to come at the expense of Teela's character. It's one thing for her to ask questions, but that doesn't mean she has to go insulting Castle Grayskull like that. We think these comics could have been a good opportunity to flesh out the story of Revelation. Instead, we're left with this frustrating mess that ends up contradicting the show in a lot of ways. If they had this tragic backstory planned out for Skeletor, why have him call himself an incel? That's just so weird, along with all the other contradictions. On top of that, a major theme within these comics comics is the importance of the secret identity. Both King Grayskull and Skeletor suffered greatly for not keeping their identity secret, yet the show seems to side with Teela and shames Adam for keeping his identity a secret. I just can't help but feel sorry for him, especially after he struggled with the secret identity to begin with. Teela was so harsh, and he just didn't deserve that. Saying Revelation was a continuation of the 80s show was really just for marketing purposes. It's pretty obvious that they didn't have the 80s show in mind at all. In that show, Teela had great respect for Grayskull and the Sorceress. There's an episode where she's asked to fill in for the Sorceress when she goes missing, but she's very uncomfortable because she doesn't believe she's good enough for that role. But she still steps up when she's needed. She understands how important it is to protect the castle, and wouldn't question something like that. I just don't understand why they would make her so unreasonable. It really hurts her character. I guess some of the backstory was interesting in these comics. I'm not entirely sure about the whole evil comes from bad experiences thing though. Lyn killing Magistra was pretty harsh, especially after it showed her genuinely enjoying her time with her. Plus it seemed to imply that she had evil in her, which is why Magistra was keeping a lid on her magical abilities. On a side note, I wonder if she went back for those cannibals. But that's just our opinion. What do you guys think? Did you find these comics interesting or frustrating like we did? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to our members: Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny York Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, Hunter Rose, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Sandy Martin, Verdant Range, Butcher7 Actual, Dash Hound, JBR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Eric Griffin, Phantom of the Night, Phil C, and Bandito Bane. Thank you all so much for your support. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a lot too. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.